I don't remember ever working with Alan Parsons before. I knew him because he was an EMI engineer at Abbey Road. So I suppose if I was there, I noticed him, especially because he's very tall and I'm very short. So, hello, Alan. And apparently he has said that he heard my voice on one of those cover versions. Do you remember they used to buy them for 10 shillings at Woolworths, Top of the Pops they were called? And he apparently had heard something I'd done. So I knew nothing about this. I just had a call from this guy that worked at Abbey Road called Dennis, who rang me up and said, was I free to do a session? And I was getting to be quite busy at the time, and I couldn't do what they wanted. I couldn't do the times. And no name was mentioned. I had no idea who it was for. I didn't even ask. And he said, oh, well, they're very keen to, you to do something. And I said, well, the only time I can do it is the next Sunday in the evening. And so he said, oh, I'll call you back. So he called me back. And I said, oh, who is it? And he said, Pink Floyd. I have to be honest, wasn't a mad, keen fan. So I went up to Abbey Road. I had no idea what it was. Nobody told me. I didn't know whether I was going to walk into the studio. There was going to be a choir, 2 other girls, 3 other girls. No idea. So I walked in with my then boyfriend and went into the control room, and the band were there, and they proceeded to explain to me that they were doing this album. It was nearly finished, and the concept of the album, birth and death and everything else in between, and they played me the backing track, and I said, well, what do you want? Basically, they had no idea. So I thought, oh, when I look back, I was fairly new to this sort of world, and probably quite naive. But anyway, I listened to the track a couple of times, and I personally had no idea what to do or what they wanted. I said, I think the best thing for me is to go into the studio, put the cans on, and have a little go and see what happens. So I started off by going, oh, baby, baby, yeah, yeah, baby, baby, which is what one tended to do for sort of scat sort of singing. And they said, oh, no, 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 we don't want any words. Well, that really stumped me. So David Gilmour came. I have to say that he was really the one that directed me. There wasn't a word from anybody else, as far as I can remember. And so David said, would you like me to write out the chord sequence? And I said, no, 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 no. And it sort of happened when I thought, well, I really don't know what they want. I don't know, but okay, best feet forward, And I thought, well, and I've said this many times, but it's absolutely true, that I thought, I have to pretend to be an instrument. And that gave me an avenue to explore. And so I started doing something. He said, we like that. So I said to Alan, OK, put the red light on, record this, because usually the first take is the best, because it's very spontaneous, and boom. And the more you do that sort of thing, it becomes repetitive, and it's not so spontaneous. It becomes contrived, you say. So put the red light on, and I started singing, and did it. Pretty exhausting, I think it was. And the funny thing was, and I may have made this up, but David Gilmour said, would I like a drink? Would you like a can of beer? And I said, well, that would be nice, yes. And it was a can of Heineken. Refreshes the parts, you see that other. Yes, so I think it was all down to Heineken myself. Perhaps I'll get a free case. And so then they said, well, I think we'll do another take. And so I did another one. And then David said, I think you could improve upon that. And I didn't think I could. And so I started a third track, and in the middle I stopped and I said, look, I really think that you've got enough, because it felt fairly complete, you know. So I went into the control room and they played it, and Alan sort of used a bit of this, and not a lot was said. And I said, oh, well, thank you very much, goodbye, and left. And I was convinced it would never see the light of day, because they hadn't commented, they hadn't made any, do you know what I mean? They hadn't said great, awful, nothing. I honestly thought they didn't like it, and I didn't give it much thought, because I never thought anybody would hear it. I did feel at the time it was probably an experiment, you know, that they weren't quite sure. They might very well put a saxophone on it, or, I don't know, string quartet. And the only, as I say, I didn't give it much thought until in about March I was going back to my flat. I had no idea that when the album was coming out, and I was on my way home to my flat, and there used to be a record shop in King's Road just past the Chelsea Potter, which was near where I lived, and there in the window was this now familiar cover, and Pink Floyd new album. And so I thought, oh, I wonder if that's what I did. See? So I had no idea. And so I walked in and opened the album, and there was great... I don't think I even knew what... I don't think it had a title when I did the singing. It was just called Scat, I think, or something. And there it was, Great Gig in the Sky, vocal Clare Torry. So I thought, oh, I'll have to buy that. So I did, and I put some headphones on and listened to the album from beginning to end. And it was, I mean, I'm sure you've listened to it on, I know you will, yeah, but it's really good. And I thought, well, thank you very much. And then that was it, on to the next job. Never gave it much thought. And not a lot of people, all I know is that several months later I was doing something at Abbey Road, and Alan was there, and he said, oh, the album's doing really well. So I said, what album? He said, you know, Dark Side of the Moon. So I said, oh, is it? He said, yes, it's really doing well in America. So I said, oh, fine, jolly good. And that was it, really. How did it happen, you know? And who knows? I've often wondered, because it's not given me some grief over the years, various things. I often wonder if it was the devil grinning up at me, or God smiling down on me. And I still haven't figured out which one had the final say. But it was one of those things happen. It was just, I think Roger once said it was a happy accident, what happened in the studio that day, evening. That's it. Strange.